The purpose of the tour is that we did not develop a historical kind of documentation of the building and the history of the building earlier, which we should have done. So I'm going to try to recall everything, and I have some little cheat notes in case I forget. Just to share with you first, I came to FAU in 1981, and as I would drive down 20th Street, which is the street coming right onto the university, I would drive in and I always thought to myself, we will have a College of Nursing, but it was on the other side, of the other side of the circle, where the College of Medicine is now. Mm-hmm. When the College of Medicine took our spot, I thought, oh my gosh, we have to have the College of Nursing be a bookend. And that really, I felt an urgency that we managed to get this. And so I drew a little simple architectural drawing that I had somebody help me with, and went to Christine and asked her if she might be interested, Christine Lynn, and asked her if she might be interested in supporting the creation of a College of Nursing. And she said, well, let me think about it. And so it was about 2 weeks later, and she called me, and God bless her, she gave us the $10 million, which was matched by the state, and so we had the opportunity to create our home. And when we had this opportunity, there were three major things that grounded our building. One was the philosophy of the college. We wanted to build a structure that in and of itself breathed caring. And one way to do that was, of course, for us, the connectedness that we experience in nursing, and how can we bring that to life? You know, the energy, the healing. We just wanted a healing space. And so that took us to a couple of things. One was the LEED guidelines, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, or better known as the Green Building. So we followed the green or LEED guidelines for the construction of the building, which meant that we were going to build a sustainable, healthy space. It had to do with where we got our resources from, the distance, where resources came from, water, air, you know, all of the things, plumbing, all of the things that matter in terms of efficiency. And we actually met the criteria to meet the guidelines for gold certification. And we were the only College of Nursing in the whole United States, as far as I know, that had any LEED certification, much less gold. So we have a little plaque upstairs. And one of the implications of us having LEED guidelines was the president, President Brogan, at that time said to me, and he said, I promise you, any future building built on this campus will be a LEED building. And from that day forward, they did follow the LEED guidelines for building, so that was really wonderful. And of course, Feng Shui. I have to go back to Eleanor, because if it weren't for Eleanor, I don't know that I would not have had the wisdom to know what I needed to do, because she gave me the little papers that I ended up reading on Feng Shui, LEED guidelines, just, I don't know, she knew way before I knew that this was going to be. So we hired a Feng Shui consultant, Carol Cannon, who came and met with us and met with the architects, and we spoke with them about how we wanted this to be. So the first thing that we had to do was to find the location. Where were we going to situate our building? Well, I knew where it had to be. But the university had us situated out by the garage. Oh. That is not very healthy. But that's where they put us on their plan, was out by the garage. So I said to Carol, I told her that, I'm like, look, if one thing, just let's solve this right now. When we get together, this is where we're going to have the building. So of course she suggested that this is the place for us to be, and we're here. And it turned out perfectly because we're facing north, which is in Feng Shui very auspicious in terms of the energy flow. You know, we're going to go outside in a minute, but so the mouth of the chi, the mouth of the energy, is right outside the door and comes and flows through our building. There's so much to say about Feng Shui. Here, right now, we are in what is called the Ming Tang area. And that is the Ming Tang, meaning the beginning of a journey. So it's the beginning of an educational journey. And you see there are 12 pillars in the lobby, each pillar representing either a month, so a year, or, you know, 2 hours in a day, or however you want to get to the 12, or the 12 branches in Chinese. So that's the significance of the pillars. You see the ceiling is maple, and you will see the floor as we go through. There's a lot of bamboo. In Feng Shui, there are the elements of earth, water, fire, metal, wood, thank you, and wood. And so those are representative of wood. And as we walk through the building, we'll point out to you on the floors, the pattern on the floors is related to the color of the wall. So in the wood area I have to back up a minute. So in Feng Shui, there's something called the bagua. And so the bagua is an octagonal shape that the architects took and put over the site plan. And it helps them to know where to position offices. So, for example, let's see, it'd be that corner. Yeah, the 4 corners would be prosperity and career, and the helpful area, student services, or the community area being the auditorium. But there's 8 areas. And so they took the bagua and intentionally placed all the offices or all the spaces in this building as they ought to be based on the Feng Shui. And so if you are in the wood area, Marlene might have to help me with this. If you're in the wood area of the building, you will see that the walls are green and the insert on the floor looks like bamboo. Mm-hmm. The squares look like bamboo. If you're in the fire area of the building, it's like a terracotta red, and the insert on the floor is like a angular, or yeah. And if you're in the metal area of the building, like where the auditorium is, you will see that the insert on the floor is metal, like a dome, like conducting. Earth, a lot of the areas you'll see just solid, or not solid, but no pattern in it, just a brownish square representing earth or nurturing. And what did I forget there?
Water.
Water. Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, yes. Water. Water is blue, and the insert on the floor is like a wave. Mm-hmm. So speaking of water, maybe this is a good time to go out in the front and hits the windows and makes wonderful sounds. And the water is represented by the river rock. The river rock on both sides as we go in, it flows through the Ming Tang area by the black terrazzo to carry through the idea of the river rock out into the labyrinth. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And the reason the door is like it is, that you can't see through, is for the element of surprise. Like, wow, this is pretty cool. We see here that here's the flow of the water, and it's coming through the building, and it's going to go out. It comes right out into the garden and flows to the back, where there is water behind here. So it really connects, and the wall is important to hold in our energy. It holds our in the chi. So beautiful out here. So we wanted in our garden area, we wanted this to be a place for reflection, for coming to know self, for peace. So we have all those little rooms along the side, which you're kind of hard to get to right now. But the intention was there were all these little rooms along this curve over there that are outside where you could go and sit and be, or you could sit here. And then, of course, to have the labyrinth. There's an amazing story with the labyrinth. I don't know anything about a labyrinth. So again, I knew Eleanor had mentioned at some time about a labyrinth creator somewhere in Miami. Anyway, I found her name was Gundula. She's from Germany, and I found her with the spirit of Eleanor. So I invited Gundula to come and meet with the architects and help me to know what this should be. So Gundula and I are sitting in a little conference room waiting for the architects. And I did not know, I get goosebumps, I did not know her. And so I started talking, and I said, well, Gundula, I really don't know anything much about a labyrinth, so tell me how you create them. She handed me a postcard, which I still have. She created the labyrinth at the Hildegard of Bingen Monastery. Oh, do you wonder why I have goosebumps? Can you imagine that? I'm like, oh my God. The architects walked in and they started, I said, no, shh. Gundula will tell us how this labyrinth should be. So the labyrinth is elliptical in shape to take on kind of the shape, why it's shaped that way. And of course, a labyrinth has the message of, you know, it's not like a maze. A labyrinth, you walk to get to the center, to be, to reflect. And so we have this amazing labyrinth created by Gundula. Any questions that you have about that? But
the plants, were they specifically selected?
Yes. I can't remember honestly which were at this point selected, but there were, you know, we wanted it to, as they would mature, as they have, to embrace us, which they are embracing us. When I came this time and saw it, I mean, how amazing, how beautiful this is. And the bell hanging from the tree came from a faculty, someone who was on the faculty, and the staghorn in the tree. It's just an amazing place.
It must have been wonderful to watch these trees grow.
Yeah.
And the Japanese garden, the Zen garden, right?
Yes,
Oh, yes.
Thank you. On that side, the Japanese Zen garden, yes. And that is outside of what we call the sacred space. We're going to go there, but that is the sacred space, and we'll talk more about that. So we'll go back in, and what we'll do is visit there are a couple very special spaces that were intentionally designed as spaces for healing, as spaces for reflection, and that's the yoga room. We call it the yoga room. And the sacred space are two of those spaces. besides the little outdoor areas. You've noticed all of the curves, you know, and that is, of course, the Feng Shui. However, in construction, they weren't able, you can't always have the curves. You have to have something where you have columns. So to correct the ills of construction, we would hang a crystal to deflect the bad energy. So we had, sadly, many of the crystals have come down or been taken, but they were all over. And they were, a Swarovski crystal was hung on a red 12-inch string. And there are some, so I'll show you as we go. All along the wall here, you'll see, every college, when you construct a new building, you can have certain artwork done. So we chose to have Carol Prushev, who was from the College of Arts and Sciences, or Letters, did this, and it's called Cradle. And each of these beautiful pieces represent healing, health. So as you go down, you'll see, and of course, here is Mrs. Lynn. She looks like she's coming from Gone with the Wind. Yes. It's such a beautiful. We use for yoga or other kinds of meditative exercises such as that. So you could just take a peek in here. And obviously now we're in the water area because the wall is blue.
Oh, wow. Oh, nice.
So the idea is not to have anything in there.
So does someone actually lead yoga?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it used to be, you know, things changed, but in the room adjacent to this, there was actually a room where we would do Reiki and healing touch and so forth, if you have the practitioners who can do that. And okay, now we're going to go there. We're going to pass Howard's office. So Howard, this is Howard's office, and he's the director of the PhD program. He's got a great window, great view. This is one of our little spaces. And now we're going to enter the sacred space. And so you can just walk through and just feel yourself being in this space. And you can see the little window to see the, as Marlene pointed out, the little garden outside.
Oh, yeah. Really, I mean,
But I love the I love the curve of the ceiling and the windows, and it's a good space. Here,
I think if you come along here,
yeah.
everybody gets a space here.
So how this came to be was, I thought, this is the truth. I thought to myself, okay, someday no one's going to be here who remembers anything about this history, so that nobody's going to know anything about it. So I thought, okay, we have to put something there that at least people will say, what is that? What does it mean? That's the truth. So I figured, okay, we put the dance of caring persons. And there's a little story about that because they kind of place dancers, and I had to go and adjust them at night and fix them differently. But the idea is, hopefully the story could be told that we are all in this dance of caring, and no one is better than anyone else. We all bring our gifts to this dance. We all have a responsibility to come to know ourselves and others as caring so that we can be more meaningfully in the dance. And I used to, and I still would, picture that dance like if I'm thinking of the work of the college. Well, everybody in that dance is in that dance that I need to support the work of the college. So if I needed money from the provost, I imagined that the provost was going to give me that money because he's there to support the work of the college, you know, or the donors are in that dance, or the students were all in that dance, you know, and so I thought of it a lot that way, or in practice, you know, and sometimes in practice, you know, the patient leads. Most of the time in practice, patient leads the dance. We follow the patient's lead for the dance. So we use it with students to help to understand what that is about in terms of a practice. You know, the janitor's in the dance, everybody's in the dance and brings their special gifts to the practice. So that's what that represents, and
The circles.
yes, and the circle.
And these little circles.
Well, in this story, there's a little story to the ceiling too. They were kind of getting near end of construction, and I asked about the ceiling, and I was told that he said, "We'll go over to the student service building and look at that ceiling, and that's going to be this ceiling." And I went over to student service, and it was a metal, ugly ceiling. And I said, "We can't have that ceiling in this building. Just don't put it up, because no." And he said, you don't have enough money to do anything different. And I said, "Just wait." So I went to a friend who gave $100,000, which is why the lobby is named after them, to build that ceiling. And so we have our beautiful maple ceiling. So, do you have any questions about any?
So, when students come here, are they told the history, like not just outcaring sciences, but the creation of a space to help nurture their journey? Is that part of the curriculum?
Probably, I can't answer that, you know, for sure. I know that, like I know you do some tours, and we do tours, especially of the archives for the doctoral students. I'm not sure, honestly, that everybody knows the story because it's my fault that it hasn't really been told from the beginning until now. So probably everybody, it would be nice to have the story.
Well, it's a legacy, but also if you feel very proud of where you came from, potential donors too, right, to continue the sustainability.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, and that's why we're doing this, so that we
Yeah.
can show this to students all the time and share the story with them. And there is an article, too, that you wrote with Debbie Raines.
Yes, there is an article published on this. So we'll walk through where some of the faculty offices are and kind of make a little turn. So you can just kind of peek in. I'll show you, there's an office at the very end, I know for sure, has a crystal hanging in front of a column. So as you walk down, you could take a peek at that. And I think a lot of these offices are in the fire area, so you'll see the color of the wall. But this is a real good example because there's a column and the crystal is hanging there and it's the right length. And that's what it should be, wherever there's, yeah.
And it's tied into the column.
Yes, because the column is blocking the flow, so the crystal corrects that negative energy. But isn't this how this just flows? When the building was built, the president, President Brogan, who was a very good president, he was good to nursing, he never came over during any of the construction. And so I invited him, of course, to come over and take a tour. And we did this tour, and we were walking down these steps, and he looked up at the ceiling, and he's like, "Ann, how did you do this?" And I said, "I didn't ask any questions." You know, no, it just, we did what we needed to do. And it was really pretty cool that and that's when he said, "We'll never build another building that's not LEED certified." That's when he said that. That's not LEED certified. This floor is all student focused. So we'll walk down this way and see, you know, some of the areas for the students to study and see we know one classroom, right? And then there's little classrooms we can just point out. But we can walk down here and just get a sense of space, student space. So down on the left, there is an area that is currently being used for simulation to some extent. And also around the corner, I think there's a really cute little area for students to study. In addition to the classroom we were in, you know, there's another classroom right next to it that's a traditional seating. But we have some very nice, flexible spaces, 3 really nice flexible spaces for seminars or small classes. You know, so that would be over there. To me, this is the prize. This is the most precious part of the College of Nursing, in my opinion. And again, the idea of wanting this space was, I felt it was our responsibility to try to preserve the works of nursing related to caring and to have some archive. I don't know why at that time I even thought like that, but I did. Anyway, this part of it is the museum where we have some things on display like different uniforms. That plaid, that was the students' first uniform. They didn't like it. It didn't last very long. We have Dee Ray's uniform in here. We have Joan Wargo, one of our donors. Who else do we have? Oh gosh.
Joan Wargo.
Yeah, Joan Wargo. Christine Lynn was a nurse. She was, yes, she worked on a cruise ship, which is, she cared for Mr. Lynn and his wife, and then his wife died, and Christine married Jean. So here are just some of the books and things. There were three blessing ceremonies that took place with our building. The first blessing ceremony was pre-construction, and the faculty, staff, and students, we all gathered outside, and we had little bags that contained 5 greens, and Carol, the Feng Shui consultant, led us in this blessing, and the idea was to honor the earth, to thank the earth for giving us the space for healing and caring for us. And so we, the faculty, staff, and students, took little seeds and planted them in the 4 corners of show people what we did. I said if they would like to participate, they can. So we had done ours, and then we had planned we would plant these seeds and do the same thing again. So, you know, we were talking about it, we were on the stage, and just before the ceremony began, Gundala came up to me, and Gundala is the most wonderful person, short, earthy. She came up to me with her bobby socks on, And she said, Anne, do you want me to blow the conch? And I'm like, yes, I do. I would like you to blow the conch in the 4 directions after we talk about everything else. I think. So we left, we went out, we talked about it. If anybody wanted to participate in that, they could. And then I nodded to Gundala. And Gundala blew the conch in the most magnificent way in the 4 directions. I'm telling you, you could have heard a pin drop. It was amazing. It was so powerful. Nobody said a word to me about it even. It was, but is that not amazing that that just happens? It just happened. So that was the first blessing, was that. And then the second blessing was when the construction was completed. We had a blessing of the exterior of the building. And so Carol, again, led us in that, and she mixed rice and alcohol and had this mixture in a bowl. And we walked around the building clockwise, and we would take some of the rice and we dropped that rice. We threw some up in the air to get rid of negative energy, but we threw some down for the planting of good intentions. And so we walked around the whole building, and that's what we did. And then before we came in, I think it was 5 times we took the rice mixture and threw it up in the air for prosperity, 5 times. And then 5 times we did it for protection, for safety, of caring for ourselves. And then we had the final blessing was for the interior of the building. And we had the flute, which was blessed, and bamboo flute, and represented the connection between heaven, earth, and us humans. And so we put the flute in this vase, and we carried the flute throughout the whole building, and we're sure to get every corner of the building so that all of the negative energy would be gone. And I think that those were the blessings that we had. And then, so those were the blessings. Here, I'm going to switch now. So here we see some of the quilts from the IAHC conferences that we had. That's where the quilts came from. You can look at your leisure of the pictures that are in here, the history, really the history, our history. You might not know that that's me there in case you don't recognize me. That's 100 years ago. But okay, so the treasures are in here. So this is the archive. Feel free to come in and turn the handles and take a peek. You're going to see here all of the books that inspired Madeline Leininger's work. You can, this is so hard to say to everybody. I'm going to back out so that you all can go in, but if you go online under the archives, you will see the listing, I'm not getting the right word, of all of the contributions and which box they're in, where they're housed. So if anybody wants to come and study and look at Zane Wolf's, where is she? I said if somebody...
We framed the little mosaic, and then there was a poster with that.
Yep, I'm talking about your work in here. Yeah. In here. But so you'll see on the outside of the door, there's some indication of what's in that particular area. So feel free to turn them and take a peek. And we hope that some of you who have not yet contributed your caring scholarship and would like to have it preserved would be willing to consider doing it.